Hello all, it's DBJ, man with the name hard to say, and this is the third installment of the Writer's Room, where I bring to you something that has been written, will be written, or is in the works, or half written from those of us at Critical Hit Publishing. I am a contributing writer to Critical Hit, and this one is Gothnog's Extraordinary Extras, Sacred Service. This is pay what you want on Drive-Thru RPG. Just look up Critical Hit Publishing for everything that's available, or of course Extraordinary Extras. You of course can download this, get the PDF for free. We do appreciate a small donation or whatever. If you prefer, take a look at it. Take a look at the preview if you like it, and you're like, I'll throw them a couple of pennies. Go ahead, more than likely. But I'm going to go through this in depth. It's not very long. It's only like 8 pages, but it will give you an in-depth look at how to create a religious figure or cleric organization, or even a whole religion. It is definitely created to be game agnostic. There is a background in it for another domain for the cleric traditions in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, but essentially it's very agnostic. So we're going to go through it and come up with things that I feel are missing in traditional Dungeons and Dragons clerics, and maybe you guys can benefit from some of these things, get some sparks of inspiration. So I started out with traditions and trappings, and those who have a true faith feel the touch every day. They tend to do things and act or behave in a manner that lets everyone else know that they are of a divine nature, and try not to hide it. So a couple of examples that you may want to add to your religious figure, whether it's an NPC or a player character race, are things like like no body hair, all body hairs removed, whether you're man, woman, or other. The faith will remove growing hair ritually when able, and this may be a ritualized encounter as the flock shave those of a higher standing. So this might be viewed in your world, whether it's one particular religion or whether it's all religions, that this is kind of like a sense of purity. There could be ritual meals on a daily basis. The cleric orders or prepares an extra meal, and this extra meal can be for a stranger or left as an offering. And this could be even problems on the trail if the cleric is out on the trail and taking extra rations that are needed for survival to leave them as an offering every single day. That could be a meal that could go for one of your party members, and the cleric may not want to do that. There's the idea of wearing a chastity belt, or meted prayer. The cleric prays 1 to 6 d6 plus 1 times a day, with the total time equal to 1 hour. The times are specific to the religion and will not be willingly waived. And so this could be a number of things. We see this in real life when it comes to Islam, but there are other very many other religions that pray either during the day or at specific times of the week, and during specific instances when they're performing particular acts. There are those who will never deny the faith. The cleric of this trapping will never willingly lie about his or her faith, even if this means being punished for having the faith. So with traditions and trappings, this is the thing that when someone sees your character or interacts with your NPC or interacts with those of this religion, this is what they're known for. This is a tradition or trapping of that religion. And frankly, they may not even know why they are obligated to do this. This is just something that they feel natural. And like I say in here, but below are some common traits that affect the daily life. Some would consider them limitations. Faith will consider these traits an honor and privilege to do so. It could be body tattoos or just wearing one particular color. It could be becoming a barefoot traveler, never wearing shoes or footwear. All right. Now, a second part that makes up a religious individual is the prayer style. I'll quickly go through some prayer styles that I have listed, and you can, of course, come up with your own, but not everyone prays the same. You know, we tend to think of the pseudo-Christian style of prayer where someone bows their head, closes their eyes, maybe brings their hands together or in front of their face or above their head or something, or maybe even bow their head and they pray. But that's not a universal, and in a fantasy setting, it doesn't have to be universal, right? So we've got things like quiet contemplation, chanting, rhythmic swaying, screaming, singing hymns, laughing uncontrollably. Religious service, such as feeding the poor, healing the sick, could be almost a meditative state. There's giving thanks for being alive or reciting verse and chapter in a book. Sacrificial offerings, maybe dancing, spinning, and leaping, complex stretching rituals, kind of like the yogi, sexual pleasure, alone or with others. That could be a part of a prayer style. Self-mutilation, ritual flaying, and or scarification. We've seen this in where people, whip themselves or have others harm them to bring them to a state of ecstasy and to become closer to the divine. There's physical exercise. There's burning of incense, maybe ringing bells, the tying of knots or meditative writing, maybe the breaking of bones or burning of dead flesh. It could be walking in circles or gathering of followers. And of course, these things, you can combine them together. You can go off on your own, but what kind of prayer style does your character or does your religion or does your NPC, call divine information from? And then we have ourselves our third category, which would be blasphemies. Some things are just unthinkable. For the cleric, these crude, vile actions are just unacceptable. It could be a tenet of faith, legacy of leadership, or a code of conduct. No matter the reason, one or more of the following is just plain annoying. Of course, I read that verbatim. And for some reason, we all find ourselves, whether we have our own particular faith, whether someone else has a faith, that there are these things that for some reason, whether it's just a legacy, whether it's just been ingrained, whether there's an actual written rule for it, that they just don't like. I have a list here. Of course, you can come and you can create your own, but here's some sparks of ideas. There's children. It could be either having children or having children participate in a religion or having children around religious figures. It could be an unkempt appearance, such as bare feet or long hair or being unwashed. It could be fornication without divine blessing, either from like marriage or blessed by someone in the hierarchy of the religion. They dislike pets and familiars, being around animals. It could be any defilement of church or temple property. That's a definite, you do not defile church or temple property, although there could be religions that should the church burn down or someone defile it, it's just a building. It doesn't matter. The faith is in the heart. Maybe it's not in a material thing. Another hated type of hated thing could be a particular social class, whether it's a dislike for the poor or the rich, or royal blood or something of that nature. It could be eating without blessing the food. It could be manual labor or traveling during a holy day. It could be a dislike for edged weapons. That goes back to classic D&D. It could be gambling, be a hatred of money, or beyond what is needed for daily expenses. Could be a hatred for excess, showing an excess. Be a dislike of worldly music, dance, and art. Maybe they find overindulgence of any kind to be anathema. to be, not part of this religion. Could be just non-believers in general. You don't associate with non-believers. It's only those who believe. That's those people, or that's your flock. You don't really, deal with people from the outside. It could be a dislike for displays of public affection or touching the dead. One specific food or even one specific gender type is not desired within this religion. Now, it could be that one or more of these could be combined together or taken as a whole for the religion, or it could just be one religious individual. Maybe one player character, NPC, doesn't like children, but everybody else just, accepts them into their group. Now, this next one, normally we think of, especially in classic Dungeons and Dragons, that clerics are healers. But where does the religion sit in the society, right? So what kind of rituals does the religion have? Religion can be known for its service to the community. Of course, we have a list. You can roll or choose a service to which the religion is best known. Examples include weddings, maybe funerals and death rites, childbirth, like being like midwifery, being a midwife, maybe the harvest or rites of passage, passage into adulthood, passage from, being a villager to becoming a hunter. It could be a passage of even members of the society moving on to something else, meaning joining the military, going into a wizard school, or even going from middle age to old age or other divisions thereof. It could be hearing confessions and offering absolution for sins. Maybe they're known for interrogation and torture, or hospice and long-term care for the sick. It could be healing the sick. As I said before about, clerics are known in classic Dungeons and Dragons for using healing spells and laying on hands and such, although not every religion may be known for that act. Maybe some rituals could be education and learning, or wards against spirits and dreams, tax collection, appointment of leadership. There are, to this day, if I'm not mistaken, the Catholic Church still honors who the next royal family member is, that takes on a royal mantle, and I believe also presides over weddings. There's also rituals for punishment, incarceration, maybe, and that they perform that function in a society or even in a small community. Could be investigations and inquisitions, maybe hunting evil or evil spirits, or acts of terrorism, or even delving into corruption. It could be corruption of the spirit in demons, or it could be corruption of society. Could be and crime as well. Could be converting the masses, preaching to the masses, converting them to that particular religion. Community service, cleaning, fixing things, healing, helping the community after a storm or other severe weather event. Could be religion could be known for reading signs, omens, and portents, or known for celebrating holidays and having celebrations. And of course, at the end of all of these, random lists, I always have, roll twice and take both, or kind of combine them together. Another aspect of really filling out your religion, or maybe your player character as a cleric, is atonement. Clerics may commit sins or break laws, most commoners ignore. Guilt and tradition can weigh heavily on the shoulders of the faithful. So we have ourselves a list of some methods of gaining atonement. I know I'm maybe halfway through this. I'm not boring you guys, but I just want to give you insight into kind of like my writing style and the way I think about things. So we have ourselves carry a stone, right? A cleric must carry a large stone for a full day. While this, penance is for the punishment of the violators, some communities will help the offender if they feel the weight is just too great, or if they respect the cleric. And I'm imagining like a big giant stone, maybe it came from dismantling, um, an evil regime, and they took down the castle. Or maybe there was a prison that the populace was just like too many people died in there, and these big giant stones. Or it could be just a stone on the shore, and this person has to carry around this like 30-pound stone everywhere they go. It could even have a chain, like a big rock with like, a metal bands around it, and a chain that just links to the neck. And wherever they need to go, they have to pick this rock up and put it down, and they're attached to the neck. And this could be a level of atonement for violating tenets of that sin. It could be forced upon them, or maybe the cleric says, you know what, I committed these sins. I know I committed them, and this is my punishment. And so maybe others help them, maybe help them carry the stone or put it in a wagon so that they can get home in the evening or something like that. We'll quickly go through some of these others. Is self-mutilation. For an hour, the cleric must endure pains of the flesh. This could be self-inflicted or inflicted by an appropriate group, such as the cleric's own followers, or even others from their order, or even the cleric's closest friends. There's nudity. You're a Game of Thrones person, you understand this one. A cleric must walk naked amongst those who would abuse them for an hour. The walk of shame is meant to cleanse the body and soul. There's also, self-enslavement. For a day, the cleric abandons their free will, becoming the servant of the one they harmed. There's exposure. How about it? Cleric remains exposed to the harsh elements for a day. They could include being naked in the frozen tundra, or encased in metal under the hot sun, something like that. There's poverty. That is as well as some of these others. That's one that we see in our world. Cleric must give away all their worldly possessions, with exception of a robe and holy symbol. There's, in a role-playing game, maybe your cleric travels with people who are, they're shady, they're untowards, they can corrupt their spirit, and at the end of an adventure, after getting all the gold and killing all the creatures, they give up all their worldly possessions and go, I went with them and I saved the world from evil, but I know I committed a sin against my own religion, my own faith. There's confession. Cleric must shout their crimes for an hour. This may be in a public square or private council within the religious hierarchy. It could be service, like maybe cleric must commit to community service for the day by maybe feeding the hungry, healing the sick, or just cleaning up trash. There's also a vow of silence. There's what is the name of it? I think it's ironclad. It's where a paladin took a vow of silence. And in the movie, when he needed to talk at the end of his vow of silence, he could barely speak. I'm going to diverge here a little bit and just say, not every religious figure need be a cleric. It could be a paladin, a druidic type of person. It could just be an average individual in this world, and this is how they worship without receiving the benefits of having divine power, right? In our own world, although you would have arguments against it, people in our own world do not commonly summon divine power as stated in role-playing games, right? They can't just make light spring from their hands and heal people with the sick and things, call fire from the sky whenever they want to from their spell list. So these are things that, religious people, like trappings, things that they may have. But anyway, that was atonement. We also have omens and signs. I really like this one because how does your religious figure receive information from their faith, right? And this could be a really big story building element, because if you have a character that is religious, how was it that they were called to that religion? It could have been that they weren't faithful at all, and then something happened, right? So the gods send messages to their servants. There's some examples how they receive those messages. There's dreams. It can come as a cleric sleeps, or it can come in the form of waking dreams, or in some cases even manifest as terrifying nightmares. There's water. Cleric sees images in water or other clear liquids. They could appear on the surface of a sacred pool, or a chalice of wine, or in a water-filled glass globe, or even in a stream with pure water, or a pristine lake. Even for more evil clerics, you might even have like putrid water or something like that. Maybe they receive omens and signs from fire, smoke, and ash. In the flames and embers of fire, the cleric may see signs and portents, or alternately, they can be seen in the patterns of ash left after a night of contemplation. So they look down, and maybe there's an image or symbols or runes or something, or maybe even a face. How about like stone, sand, and dust? A cleric could receive divine guidance from an errant stone, or a pattern in the sand, or how the dust moves, something of that nature. It could be sex, through sexual congress, or sadomasochistic acts, either giving or receiving them. The cleric can induce prophetic and often ecstatic visions. We know about like tantric magic or something of that nature. I don't know anything about that. There's body fluids and waste. Some clerics may examine specific bodily fluids like blood, saliva, semen, menstrual fluid, amniotic fluid, etc. It could be collections of body waste in order to glimpse the future. These could often be from animals in the form of entrails, but the sources could be from a sapient being. That's the kind of thing that's associated with evil deities, but it could be part of how this person receives divine messages, and even their divine magic if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. There's spontaneous possession, alone or in a crowd. The faithful wait for the touch of a divine hand. And possession, the ultimate goal is the body shakes and the voice sprouts obscure messages. Maybe the player character themselves doesn't hear those messages. They just go into this ecstatic state, and others translate those messages from the divine. Could be animal behaviors, observing spider webs or schools of fish or flocks of birds. There could be omens. I saw an eagle, and the eagle landed and looked at me, and it had one green, it grasped in its, talon, one green leaf or something, and that tells you something about the future, or about your faith, or whether you feel like you're being watched over. It could be pain and drugs. During self-inflicted wounds that induce this adrenaline and a static level of pain. Certain psychedelic plants or fungus could also be used to achieve the same thing, transcending time and space to go to another world or another state of being. It could be divination, such as like cards, dice, bones used to predict the future. These methods could be more effective as personal to the cleric. So maybe the clerics gathered small items along their travels and use those items for divination. Could be sensory deprivation. Maybe they isolate themselves as much from stimulation as possible. Maybe going into a sealed room or a tank of water or something, or covering their eyes and ears. Those can be omens and signs. There's also public perception, and I'll end on the public perception portion, where how is this individual or religion, or even in a small community, how are they viewed? Not all religions are fully integrated in society. Some suffer from disorganization or internal strife, or even moral degradation. You can we have a list where you can roll or choose how religion is seen by the public, and use the descriptors as springboards for developing a history for the church, and as an option to roll twice, once for what the public thinks, and then again for what it is true going on behind the scenes. So I have a couple, and these are just simple words like maybe they're hated or feared, or mysterious, admired, secretive. Members of the church are hunted or powerless, they're fractured, could be in hiding. Maybe they're abused, or they're known as leaders. It could be intrusive in private life, or military, or even political, intruding into political machinations. It could be obsessive or fanatical. It could be legendary, known for their good or evil acts. could be well respected, kind of complicated, the complex hierarchy and moving up through the ranks. Could be manipulative or adversarial, and as like I said before, one version could be how they're perceived by the public, and the other could be what is really happening underneath. So anyway, this is a DBJ again. Gothmog's Extraordinary Extras, Sacred Service from Critical Hit Publishing. Please take a look at some of our stuff. Just wanted to give you an insight into what something like this could be used for. That is all. I'll just end it with this, that this Extraordinary Extra is about Sacred Service. There's another one called Arcane Ancestry. That may come up in a moment. I might even do another video after this one. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's the idea of adding little details, little life, little elements and details to bring life to your religious figures, including player characters. There are very few role-playing games that really, really develop what religion is, that is played amongst a large scale of role players. Classic Dungeons and Dragons, specifically because it's designed this way, is to have a very vanilla element. If you took clerics out or threw them in, there's no change really. But we know as role players that religion, kind of sits side by side with politics and how people react to each other. When people greet each other, they may greet each other with sayings from a particular religion. There may be instant animosity between people who believe in different religions without knowing who and what they are about. So anyway, DBJ, as always, be creative. Don't destroy that spirit inside of you. And of course, try to go into more detail and bring life to those religious figures and even player characters in your game. So I am out. Thank you. And oh yeah, by the way, check out the previews. Go to Drive-Thru RPG and see what we have. Take a look at the previews and take a look at some of my other videos as well, and see what you like. I really, really happy that people are invested into what I do, because I'm pretty boring dude, man. I just talk at the camera and hope kind of feel your positive vibes coming through on the other end, man. Even if the time is out of sync, I still feel like the love is eternal. So thank you very much for giving me such a pleasant and positive experience in doing online punditry, if the case may be. So anyway, DBJ, and I'm out. Happy spell casting from those clerics.